bloody pleasure to see you all again. Maybe I'm coming across as a bit emotional. Maybe someone's affecting me. Before we go on, I want to take a quick just moment to remind you all that we are going to start doing the retro ups and downs. We're going to give it a go because we have been listening. There will be polls coming in the coming weeks to pick which episodes we're going to do. This is going to come just after the ups and downs finish for this season of Lower Decks. So there will be polls, but please make sure if you want to put any suggestions in, tag us. You can also put in the hashtag #TrekCulture because we'll also go through them as part of our weekly podcast as well, which comes out every Tuesday. With that, shall we dive in to Empathological Fallacies? This week, it's Vulcans are the name of the game, and I couldn't be happier because I'm just gonna, right at the beginning, we wanted to make a point of just going, in season 3 of Star Trek Lower Decks, if there was one thing that we felt was missing, it was T'Lyn. She had been introduced in Wage-Douche. She was so much fun, and it looked like the show was being set up that she would join the crew. She then didn't for season 3, and it was frustrating, and we were annoyed, and we wanted to see her. Season 4 has been just confirming how correct we were to be excited to see her joining the crew in the finale of season 3. So a whopper up this week, straight away to T'Lyn. This episode is pretty much focused on her, and Gabriel Ruiz gives such a good performance. She is so believable as a Vulcan. You know, she's still, you know, even in this world of Lower Decks, she's still a Vulcan, and yet still manages to walk that line of comedy and pathos as well. Just had to start this week with a big, massive up for T'Lyn. Now, the episode opens with T'Lyn's letter to Sokal, her previous commanding officer, effectively asking to come home again. You know, she's a bit fed up with how things are run on, well, this Starfleet ship in particular. And let's be honest, the USS Cerritos is probably not the easiest ship to serve on if logic and order are your main concerns, or at least they seem to be. And it's not helped with the fact that there are 3 visiting dignitaries from Betazoid, all of whom are getting 1, 2, 3 ups. I loved the Zoids this week. They were just brilliant. We have a great guest cast. We had Wendy Malick, Rachel Dratch, and Janelle James, all of whom are so much fun. Basically everything that T'Lyn probably doesn't want to see of a day on the Cerritos, they just encapsulate. They come aboard having just come from Angel 1. As per usual, folks, I had a lot of fun with the station observations this week, so enjoy that when it comes around. You know, they're carrying basically these yardsticks of drinks, and they're talking about keeping the party going, and you know there's a little something going on, you know. I also love the fact that they all look like they've raided Lwaxana Troy's wardrobe as well. So I just have to give that an up, just for the consistency of, yeah, that's exactly what a Betazoid dignitary would wear. Such a strong opening to the episode, and we see them sort of slightly bickering while also just having the laugh, and Ransom tries to flirt with one of them, but the very fact that Ransom is interested is a turn off for her, and then he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I can be cold and detached. Just Ransom taken up. Also, sorry, I have to give an up to the fact that he's basically able to hold the yard glass between his buns. That's a skill I'm trying to work on, because that is a posterior. That is a man who does squats. They get to sickbay, and straight away we see T'Ana sniffing the air. And there's a bit of light-hearted banter where they joke about the fact that Caitians used to hunt, kill, and eat Betazoids. Sorry, what? That's not fun. Yeah, apparently Caitians and Betazoids have a history, and everyone's laughing, it's great. And also, sorry, if you think I didn't notice, Andy Billups. I mean, he is keeping that figure. I always love that they throw these gags in about Billups, so it's just like, all I love is my engineering, and crunches apparently. There's a couple of really good gags where just T'Ana is sort of like almost like inherited memory, you know, she kind of gets the whiff of them and she's like, yeah, and then nearly burns Billups, who has a little cut on his chest. Sorry, Katrot turns around wearing an It's Romulan Ale O'Clock Somewhere hat. The fact that this didn't get my latinum up is a sign of how much I enjoyed this episode. It is definitely an up, though. Freeman and the crew of the Cerritos have been ordered to make sure that these dignitaries have a good time. So, as they turn to head toward the bar, T'Lyn enters sickbay with 3 fresh drinks in her arms. And Freeman says, oh, don't need these anymore, heading to the bar. So, T'Lyn, you can see the frustration ever so slightly on her face, but you know, Tana's there to take one off her hands, and so she takes it, downs it, goes, time to get to surgery. Up. Tana is just one of my favorite characters in Star Trek. So this culminates with T'Lyn. She's just finished her letter, and she's sitting in her quarters, and she's like, right, send. Can't do it. Because signal blocked. She's like, send. Nothing. And she tries again, Basically, in a very un-Vulcan-like manner, she gets frustrated enough that she keeps trying to resend this note. Even Mariner pops her head in and says, come on, there's a party down in the mess hall. We're going to celebrate the Betazoids. You should come, there's going to be a chocolate fountain. And also she goes, she's going to get champagne fully buzzed, which I just love. And T'Lyn is just like, I understood virtually nothing of what you just said. And again, I love their friendship. Sorry, that's another up. Mariner and T'Lyn as a double act. Now, I love Tendi as well. I really enjoyed Something Borrowed, Something Green and their story, but Mariner and T'Lyn are the unlikely, the odd couple, if you like, that really, really works for me. T'Lyn is convinced to go as far as the mess hall, and that's when we start to see that things aren't quite right on the Cerritos. And it just so happens to coincide with these 3 Betazoid dignitaries, and everyone starts showing overt emotions. You know, you have Ransom crying onto his bestest best buddy Steve Stevens' shoulder about how, you know, did she even notice the gains? You know, you have Rutherford is looking like he's just taken all of the caffeine in the world, and, you know, Tendi is like, be my best friend, And, you know, Mariner, Freeman is just like, I want you to think that I'm cool. It gets funnier and funnier on each rewatch because everyone immediately is thinking, it's clearly the Betazoids that are doing this. Obviously the Betazoids, because we're thinking back to a certain episode of Deep Space Nine. When you know what it is, it gets even funnier. And personally, I am living for the fight between Miglimo and that replicator. Taken up. Before Rutherford managed to make it as far as the mess hall, he and his bestest roommate of them all, Brad Boimler, together they make Rutherford, were having words in their quarters. And there's just one really sweet moment in the episode that, again, I want to give an up to, and it's Rutherford just admiring his Lieutenant Junior grades pip. It's just lovely, because remember, he's one episode behind everyone in terms of his promotion. So it's just before he puts it on, he just kind of smiles. Boimler's stressing because, of course he is, he's trying to remember the names of every single crew member, which is not easy when 3 of them are called Merp. You know, Rutherford is like, okay, but maybe you need to come to the party, because otherwise you won't know what happened to the party, and then you'll be behind in knowing everything. And Boimler's like, ha ha ha, once I know I can remember everyone's names, then I will party. So Rutherford secretly contacts Shax and suggests Boimler for the program. In the mess hall, one of the funniest sight gags that I have ever seen, as T'Lyn is realizing not all is well with the crew. You know, she's just nerve-pinched Ensign Barnes, who was going to drop the ship out of warp so that they could spend more time before they get to Risa. Everyone's going, oh, boo, boo. And an honest-to-God inflatable beach ball with a Starfleet Delta on it bounces by behind her, taken up. I want that, and it's going to be the must-have summer toy of 2024, okay? That is so funny. Shax takes Boimler down to a part of the ship that he hasn't seen before, and we, as an audience, are kind of like, where's this part of the ship? He's bringing him to a secret door, and, you know, Boimler's like, oh my god, what's this gonna be? Am I gonna learn some Sukatsi or something? And they open the door, and it's security slam poetry. There is a wonder, it's such an understated little B-plot in this episode, which is Boimler, remember, he is a baby bear, just like Rutherford is. Shax is taking care of him, not just, you know, his standard physical security. He is taking care of the crew of the Cerritos, including Boimler. And the security team together, they go through some games. First of all, they have this slam poetry, which is just chock full of references. Then we get charades, which then turns out to be, of course makes sense, it's Starfleet security officer charades. And frankly, Kayshawn is very good at it, and Boimler is very good at guessing it. They don't realize yet that they're also being affected by what's going on in the rest of the ship. So for a while, quite frankly, Boimler's just a bit of an asshole. And it's kind of like, oh, Brad, what are you doing, man? They're trying to be nice. They're trying to be nice. And yeah, so Boimler's really down in the dumps, and he's kind of being a bit of a cloud to every silver lining. So we're going to leave him there for the moment. He's just been presented with a mysterious Bajoran box of mysterious... It's a jigsaw puzzle and a deck of tarot cards. It's quite funny. With some cajoling and convincing, they managed to get the 3 Betazoid dignitaries to sickbay, where T'Ana, who is just about holding it together at this point, scans them and finds out nothing's wrong. That's right, whatever's happening on the ship, it's not coming from the Betazoids. It is only a little bit later on that we realize it's coming from T'Lyn. It is presenting very much as Xanthi fever, which we know Betazoid women of a certain age go through, which sort of spreads their empathic abilities and, frankly, their moods between different various hosts, causing all of these outbursts, we assume. This leads to them basically thinking, right, we've got to overpower people here because this is wrong. And in fairness to them, Freeman is a bit like, no, you're doing something, you're ruining my ship, I've got to send you to your private quarters, I've got to confine you. They all have hidden lipsticks, which are basically electronically charged batons, kind of cool, kind of want one. And this scene ends with T'Lyn, Mariner, and T'Ana tied up in sickbay. Now at this point, T'Ana has gone full. Whatever's in the air, she's had 2 nostrils of it. And she does untie Mariner, T'Lyn herself. She's a Cation after all. But then she runs off to turn those Betazoid women into brisket. Mama's gonna eat well tonight. Very strange up for that one, but an up nonetheless. There's a little bit of scanning, and we get a tiny down. We get a bit of animation that shouldn't be there yet. You get T'Lyn and Mariner standing in front of a diagnostic screen that has Bendai syndrome written in big letters. And then as the scene, imagine it was just cutting to a different angle, you can see that they then go and load the screen to Bendai syndrome. So it's basically it was in a couple of frames too early, and you might be like, Sean, is that a bit nitpicky? I'm literally freeze framing it at this point, so I notice these things. But they identify what the thing is. It's not the Betazoids at all. It's T'Lyn. T'Lyn is in the throngs of Bendai syndrome, which again, we have seen in Star Trek before. A very famous Vulcan had this particular illness in an early episode of The Next Generation. And you know what? The symptoms manifest almost identically to Betazoid Xanthi fever. So it's actually T'Lyn who's causing all of this between the crew. So as they're walking through the ship, they go back to the mess hall, and at this point, you know, the crew's tried to build a human pyramid, it falls apart, it seems like it's fun for the moment. It does seem like everyone's having a bit of a good time. You know, until the Betazoids kidnap Freeman, take over the ship, and set a course to Betazoid through the Romulan neutral zone. This was a bit of a plot where I'm excusing it because of the Bendai syndrome of it all, but Betazoid, or Betaz is a Federation member world, first of all, so they would know not to go through Romulan space. Being a Federation member world, taking over a Starfleet vessel, probably going to get them in trouble, even if they are from a special sect of Betazoid security. Let's Bendai syndrome that for a moment. They decided that this is the best idea. It's like they're stealing a cop cruiser, you know what I mean? Or, you know, a Garda car. That's effectively what this is. They're having a bit of a joyride. And the thing is, it's a big, like, forgetting of the rules to just go, I know, I'll take us through Romulan space. That's going to cause a war. I say that though, but the Romulans and the Federation basically nip across the neutral zone every other Tuesday in Next Generation. So, do you know what? Actually, yeah, I'm going to move on from this one. Tendi and T'Lyn managed to upset the locals by not being sufficiently excited to be Tendi's best friend. I mean, they're still excited in their own way. They escape into a uniform closet, and there T'Lyn makes an admission to Mariner. Mariner's all like, oh, way to Vulcan out there, way to have control of yourself, oh, whatever. T'Lyn quickly does a little, not mind meld, but helps balance Mariner's emotions, and Mariner's like, oh yeah, no, that really helps. First of all, up straight away. T'Lyn knew what to do, she stood there, she did it. But then she makes an admission to Mariner, which is a heck of an admission for a Vulcan. She says, I feel I am not Vulcan enough. And she divulges to Mariner the situation of why she left the Vulcan ship and came to serve on the Cerritos. Now, we as an audience, we know, we saw Weish Douche, but Mariner didn't actually know that. And so having T'Lyn confide in her like this is, again, a really sweet indictment of their friendship. Mariner, in typical Mariner status, not only, do you know what, I may have the scene out of order, but the fact that, T'Lyn says, I am far too young for Bendai syndrome, I am only 62, and Mariner's like, well, listen, hey, you look amazing, and doesn't miss a beat, doesn't break a strike, that's an up. But again, she's like, you know who else had Bendai syndrome? Spock's dad. And who is the most Vulcan of them all. He was Vulcan as a motherfucker. And T'Lyn goes, following that logic, I am indeed Vulcan as a motherfucker. Up? Latinum up. Hearing T'Lyn describe herself as Vulcan as a motherfucker, just, peak. And this pep talk that Mariner gives T'Lyn enough confidence within herself that basically her Bendai syndrome leaves. She's cured. So, apparently the power of well wishes will make you all better. No, it won't. For the love of God, if you're not well, see a doctor. And that seriously helps. People start to calm down. The rest of the ship starts to sort of calm down a little bit. This is good. Down in the security locker, you've effectively got Shax, who is exasperated, but not in an angry way at Boimler. He's a bit like, I know you think we just sit here, kind of basically getting ready to fight, but we need to be ready all the time. That includes looking after each other. And he's there trying to, build up Boimler's spirit with the tarot cards in front of him, which are just citation observations. And then Freeman has managed to hit the red alert button, and it's security team to the go. So she's managed to have the Betazoid women have sort of turned on each other. They're sort of sniping. But that gives the security team enough time to get up to the bridge and fairly quickly stop the takeover of the Cerritos, stop the Cerritos from moving into Romulan space. And again, another properly laugh out loud moment is as it turns away, a Romulan warbird decloaks and the crew on the warbird all goes, aww, up. And they're like, we'll go to another area and lurk over there. Oh, take another up for that one. They managed to straighten everything out. They explain what was going on with T'Lyn. T'Lyn, is better now. The Betazoid women, even they're like, look, we apologize for how we acted. And everyone understands each other now. And they say to Freeman, they're like, look, Betazoid monitoring station caught a glimpse of the ship that's been attacking other ships. Here you go. So Freeman and Ransom get their first glimpse of the ship that's been firing those beams at the Klingon bird of prey, the Orion interceptor, things like that. And the closing scene is T'Lyn being hugged by Mariner after she's agreed to stay on the Cerritos, and Tendi just missing the hug by a second. Oh, taken up. Would you kindly join me now at Citation Observations? Reference to Angel 1, one of the worst episodes of Star Trek. Then, of course, we have a reference to Risa as well. We have these three Betazoid women, all of whom looking very Loxana Troy. The yardsticks are all marked with Angel 1 logos. There is a nurse in sickbay with a visor like Geordie LaForge. The hat that says Romulan Ale O'Clock. Oh my god. There is a portrait of Vulcan on T'Lyn's wall. Not too dissimilar to this one, actually. Almost definitely from that opening scene of the motion picture where Spock is undergoing colinar. Vulcan neck pinch being used on Ensign Barnes. We have a Galaxy-class board game that gets flipped over in the mess hall as well. People are drinking beer from glasses like Chief O'Brien and Dr. Bashir in DS9. Going down to a new part of the ship that we've never seen before. This is clearly a callback to episodes of, say, Star Trek Voyager, like Good Shepherd, and we go down to Deck 15 for the first time. You're like, where the heck has this been? And then like late in the day episodes of Next Generation, like the nacelle control room. You know, like we've never seen it before, doesn't mean it's not there. Boimler is excited that he might be learning Sunkatsi. The slam poetry, Worf, a warrior, a farm boy, son of Moog, take a bat'leth into the armor around his heart. And then Xanthi Fever, reference to the DS9 episode Fascination, where Lwaxana Troi arrives on the station and everyone starts acting a bit the fool. It's not an egg, just the fact that there's two crewmen literally glued to each other for most of the episode, and do they just slide off the bar at this point? Sorry, I just had to mention that. Guronian measles, but also Alterian flaking. Alterian encephalitis has shown itself before, or supposedly shown itself before in the Next Generation episode Future Imperfect. When Riker is in one of the simulations, Dr. Crusher diagnosed Captain Riker with Alterian encephalitis, which deleted the previous 16 years of memories from his head. So says Barash. T'Lyn ready to kick butt several times in this episode. I suspect she is a student of Sus Machna, which is of course a Vulcan martial arts, which T'Pol was very adept at, and so we know is Commander Ransom. I mentioned the beach ball already with the Delta. The mop bucket in the security closet has a Delta on it as well. And just beside that is a fold-up table like you would get at any party. But look at it. It's the bloody table from the Next Generation Enterprise D engineering. I love these little gags. They talk about Odo from Deep Space Nine and of course his bucket during Starfleet Security Officer charades. This mystic Bajoran box, we've seen lots of Bajoran boxes like that in Deep Space Nine. The Malcolm Reed jigsaw with the NX-01 on it, or the tarot cards, we'll come back to that one. Okay, so the display of Romulan space is hilariously outdated because it's from the original series Balance of Terror. It shows the neutral zone, it shows the star bases along the neutral zone. It shows Romulus and Romi, or Rom-2. I'm going to say Romi, R-O-M-I-I, instead of Remus. It also shows Cheron, which, if I am not mistaken, is the devastated planet from Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. Now, there is a ton of 47 references in this episode. Just check basically any display. But specifically, I started to notice it really when we're in sickbay talking about Bendai syndrome. There is, at one point, there is one that says 3847. The fact that T'Lyn is 62, that's within a couple of months of the same age as T'Pol when she started serving on the NX-01. Now, these tarot cards, we're back with Shax. So one of them is for the orbs, another one is for the Celestial Temple. One is for the Bajoran moon of Derna, which, as you'll remember, is where the Romulans tried to arm with photon torpedoes after they put their hospital there in Image in the Sand and Shadows and Symbols. We have, of course, a tarot card of the Emissary. We have the Invasion card, which you look at the Bajoran farmer with the sword, but actually if you pull back, it is a Cardassian's legs and boots on the Invasion card. And the last one is of Borhayas. Now these are ghosts in Bajoran mythology. If you think of the Next Generation episode, The Next Phase, where Ro Laren thinks that she's died and has become a Borhaya, or Borhaya, haunting the decks of the Enterprise D. And there's a lot of talk of rebirth as well. Usually when I hear rebirth and I think Bajorans, it's like the rebirth of Bajor after the final reckoning. So you never know. He might have been on to something there with that. Big Merp is wearing a Qatarian game. Why have every single one of these games not been confiscated yet? This is ridiculous. Two crewmen wearing Anbo Jitsu uniforms. Mind meld to balance emotions. We've seen that in episodes like Sarek, which is a massive influence on this episode as well, of course. Sarek, and then of course later on Unification, which unfortunately saw the death of Sarek as well. The decloaking Romulan warbird as well, being a lovely Easter egg to the fact that they always hide just on the side of the neutral zone, waiting for Starfleet to cross. And that is everything for our episode this week. What did you think? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much to everyone for following along. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We are this close to 300,000 subscribers. And I cannot say thank you enough. Please keep sharing these videos. Please keep getting them out to people, because that's allowing us to continue doing videos like this. There is also a new very short Trek has dropped this week, written by friend of the channel, Aaron Walkie, so do check that out. Holograms all the way down. And just everyone, look after yourselves till I see you again. Make sure that you're kind, make sure that you are live long and prospering your way through the week. Follow us over on Twitter at TrekCulture, follow us on Instagram at TrekCultureYT, we're on Blue Sky as well at TrekCulture. I'm at Sean Ferrick, and Chris, of course, is at ChrisEdit on all the various socials. We have our podcast dropping on Tuesday, so don't forget to check that one out. Remember, keep an eye out for the polls, for the retro ups and downs, and I think I've plugged just about everything. So I'm gonna have a cup of tea, I'm gonna relax in my Bendai syndrome, and I'm gonna hope that you're gonna have a very, very nice week. Because you know what? You deserve it. Look after yourselves, everyone. Thank you very much.